All right, Entree Architect community, it's 4 p.m. Eastern, which means it's time for the Entree Architect Context and Clarity conversation for Friday, March 31st, 2023. It's a book club Friday. Welcome. If you're just getting here, say hi, let us know that you're here, and let us know where here is for you. Where are you joining this conversation from? If we've never met before, my name is Jeff. I'm in Indianapolis. I come here every weekday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern for one reason, so that we can find clarity around the things that matter most to you, the architect. Doesn't matter if you're the employee of a firm or you own your own firm. Maybe you've circled a date on the calendar. You said, hey, 2023 is my year, and you're going to start out the second quarter of 2023 doing your own thing.
Second quarter.
Or second quarter, that's tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah, look out. Or maybe you started your own thing a year ago, or 10 years ago, or 30 years ago, and you're starting to rethink or reimagine what that firm could, or maybe even should be. All of the topics that we cover, one topic every day, they all fall under the broad umbrella of the business of architecture, and they're all the need to know topics for the success of entrepreneur architects just like you. So thanks for joining us today, as usual, for these book club discussions. This is our March book club discussion. I am
March.
joined by Catherine McPhail. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Jeff. Well, I have so much to say to you that I forget to say some things, and
Okay,
that's okay. We'll wait until it starts. But I noticed something on. Is this being recorded?
it is.
Hmm.
It's always Big Brother is watching.
Okay,
Okay.
then I'll just think about what I'm going to say.
Okay. All right, you could do that. I see Chad is in the room first. He says, ha ha, first one here for once. Well, Chad, you are the first one here for once. And that means that you are the winner of today's John Kinney Memorial Crochet Bathtub Award. So, congratulations. Thanks for joining us from the ATL from Hotlanta. Don't know if it's hot or not, but glad you're here. Mark R. LePage, welcome back from Waxhaw, North Carolina. Glad you're here. And Chris Novelli, good afternoon in Massachusetts, which is where Catherine is as well. Glad to
That's
have
where
all
I
of you
am.
here this afternoon. All right. And as Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Twitch and YouTube push this out to the audience, as you get here, say hi when you get here. Even if you're just playing to listen in or multitask, that's okay. Even if you haven't read this book, I think we can have a pretty decent conversation about like RE colon, Rethink Innovation by Carla Johnson. One, because we talked to Carla Johnson yesterday on Context and Clarity Live. So
We
I
did.
think we'll be able to have a good conversation about this today.
I hadn't
All
noticed
right.
that she called herself innovation architect before today, this afternoon.
She does call herself that. We did not talk about that yesterday.
We didn't.
Um, no, we didn't. She is not an architect. However, she
Mm-mm.
has worked in the profession apparently
Hmm.
for a while, and I would say more marketing type roles. But she does call herself an innovation architect, and I believe
Okay.
this is her 10th book. I
Wow.
think that's right. I think it's her 10th
Yeah.
book.
I saw somewhere that she's
First
a
bestseller.
prolific writer, and indeed she does seem to have put out a lot of books. All right. Well,
It's true.
here's
Go
a
ahead.
burning question for me. Did you take the quiz to determine what type of innovator you are?
Actually, I did not. I
What?
did not take
You
it.
can do it now because it doesn't take very long.
Okay. I will do it as we talk. How's that?
Good. All
Um,
right.
yeah.
Well, this should be easy enough because I turns out I am a provocateur.
Okay. That seems to
It's
make
hard to
sense.
imagine. That doesn't seem like me at all.
It doesn't.
Well,
So if
yeah.
go ahead.
It says here that where I struggle as a provocateur is I get impatient with others who don't think on their feet. Uh,
Uh,
I can be perceived as difficult to get along with and often rub others the wrong way. And when I try too hard, my ideas seem over the top and unrealistic. Yeah.
well, it, and
And
so I think that's one of the things that's sort of fascinating about what she writes about in the book. And
mhm.
I'm going to go ahead and throw this up on the screen. If you would like to take the Innovator Archetype Assessment, there the URL is in the bottom left corner of your screen right now, carlajohnson.co/innovation archetype. So you can go do that if you'd like. While I do it, actually, while we talk,
Yeah.
But
It's likely that you're a culture shaper, whoever you may be, because most people are culture shapers at
there you go.
26%.
Wow.
Then we have it's go big or go home. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's kind of the way I feel. The thing is, it is a little bit accurate. Uh,
Yeah.
Also, it says that a provocateur's natural talent in generating ideas can fall short in execution. Yeah. Oh
Uh,
well.
it- Well, I think starting with the archetype assessment, because the whole idea is to figure out where you are, right, in the
Mhm.
archetypes, and then figure out how you work with others, which is, kind of what you're describing there as well. And that's one of the things that she talks about in the book is a culture of innovation. And to me, I thought that was one of the most fascinating things, maybe for us specifically, because there's a ton of creativity in this profession. Obviously, is it innovation? I don't know. How do you describe, how do you define innovation? Carla Johnson has a very specific way of defining innovation, but I think to go beyond just that step, it's um, if you're a firm, if you're an organization of more than one, right? That's where I guess it gets important.
Mm,
How innovative or how open to innovation is the culture itself? Because if you're a provocateur in a culture that's not very open to innovation, that's not an I forget how she says it, but not an innovative culture, then yeah,
mhm.
that is going to rub people the wrong way. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Swimming
Yeah.
upstream. Yeah.
So where did you turn out? It turns out Manuel says that he's a provocateur also. Chris is bummed that he didn't get provocateur. I was kind of bummed that I didn't get strategist. So we could just switch. Chris got strategist.
There you go. Let's
Um,
see. I'm still clicking through here. So
yeah, it's not many questions, but so
nope, five.
I did, yeah, not too many. Um, I guess, after our conversation yesterday, when you asked me if I could come up with 200 solutions
Yeah.
to
Yep.
problems, I mean, a lot of those would have to be really, I don't know that I could come up with 200 good solutions to problems, and maybe 80 of them are going to be really similar
Yeah.
solutions if I did that. I mean, I could come up with some really, really bad ones if I had to, but 200 is a lot. I was thinking about that a lot this morning. That's a lot
Yeah.
of solutions.
Yeah. It is a lot, but also, to Carla's point, they're not 200 good ones, right?
No,
It's just 200, and some are
right.
iterations on iterations, et cetera. And that's an interesting. So the book is full of studies and examples, case studies and such, and it is interesting that research on the more ideas, and I it really resonated with me when she said, a lot of people go, well, we got 20 ideas, that's fantastic, but you really need 200. I get that, because if I'm here working by myself, I'm surrounded by whiteboards here. It's actually kind of one of the questions in the assessment. But if I come up with a handful of good ideas, I feel like, wow, I've accomplished something. I've got something here. And this is no, it may not even be anywhere near 20, let alone 200. So yeah, that was a sort of a you know an inhale sort of a moment when she said 200. So
Mm. Well, I can imagine me giving 200 solutions to my clients and having them
yeah.
be completely overwhelmed. So I have to choose
Oh
which
yeah.
ones, like, let's say,
Yeah.
if I have
Well,
3 variations, there are probably 10 variations at the most. Well, depending on how big the project is between each one. So really it's 30, but it really only looks like 3.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other day, so this week, and if you're new to Context and Clarity, if you don't know this, we do Context and Clarity live on Thursday, where we have a special guest. Yesterday it was Carla Johnson, the author of the book that we're discussing now, Rethink Innovation. And so we tailor our entire week around the theme for our Context and Clarity live. So innovation and creativity. So we start with a question every day. Monday we started with, how do you research? Tuesday, where do you find inspiration? Wednesday, what is your creative process or what does your design process look like? And I think Wednesday, when we were talking about the process, I think it got really interesting because people would talk about how they do things, and then we dug a little bit deeper into, okay, if this is your process, which I think for most of the people in this community, that process can be pretty chaotic. If that's your process, where, when, or if do you invite your clients into that process? Right?
Mm,
Did they see the chaos? Did they get a curated view of it? What does that look like? And I remember Jake Flinton saying that his process is like a funnel. And so it starts out really wide at the top, and there's a lot happening. The chaos is all at the happening, or chaos is happening at the top. And then as they get further down the funnel, it gets more and more refined. And so, the clients get a little bit of a view of that chaos, but they get less and less of it as they go down his funnel. And that made a lot of sense to me, right? It's like, okay, hey, here's what happens in this creative process. I would think the clients would see a lot of value in going, oh wow, yeah, there's a lot happening here. And then also seeing value in the how it gets refined
mhm.
without, pulling the whole Wizard of Oz curtain back. So that was just one of the comments um, from Wednesday, I guess it was, but I thought it was a good one.
Yeah. You finished the
I'm
quiz?
almost I'm almost through. I had to I'm clicking and looking things up here. Let's see.
Well, it looks like, Manuel wants to know, do you think she meant 200 full-fledged and different ideas, or was that
Mhm.
200 counting all the small variations? Well, I think that she's not talking about architecture particularly, so maybe it's like an idea of, she uses a couple of different business examples in the book. Now what are they? That's the advantage of having a paper book, like an actual
Yeah.
physical book in front of me.
Yeah. And
'Cause,
I don't have this one in the physical form this month.
yep.
I usually have it, but I don't. I'm a culture shaper. I came back culture shaper.
Oh, well, you know what? That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So why don't you tell
It
us what a
does not
culture shaper
surprise me.
is?
So a culture shaper. Let's see. Where's the? Okay.
Oh,
So
oh,
culture shaper.
it
Go
says this
ahead.
innovator architects the brand. Now, I'm not a huge fan of her use of that as word, but anyway, the innovator oh my gosh, as a sculptor, culture shaper, you architect the brand and
Yeah.
oversees how it's being expressed. Did you
Yeah.
look at that ahead of time and tailor your
No,
answers?
but I did as I was listening to the book, and I think I said this yesterday. I don't remember if we were live or if we weren't, but I think I said this at some point yesterday. I was listening to that section of the book where she explained all of the different archetypes,
Mm.
and it reminded me. Yeah, I remember I said this. I don't know if we were live or not, but it reminded me. I used to watch I Love Lucy and The Honeymooners with my mom late at
Yeah.
night. The old school comedy stuff, just comedy gold. And there's this episode of I Love Lucy where Fred and Ethel and Ricky and Lucy go probably to the club, right? They went out to dinner, and Lucy orders first, right? And so she orders whatever, and then Ethel orders, and Lucy says, "Hey, wait," and she changes her order because of whatever Ethel ordered.
Right.
And then they go on, and Fred orders, and Lucy says, "Wait," and she changes her order because of whatever Fred says. And then they get around to Ricky, and she says, "Wait," and she changes her order after Ricky does, and gets all the way back around. She goes back to what she had originally chosen.
Yeah. That
And as I
sounds
was listening
familiar.
to this section of the book, and she was explaining all of the archetypes. That's I was Lucy because it's like, yep, I'm pretty sure that's me. And then
Yeah.
she starts explaining the next one. I'm like, oh wait, that might be me.
Yeah,
And
I
it's,
I felt
and so
too,
I was
yeah.
going through them all. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
kind
So
of
I
funny
I
because
had two or three.
I had to, I wanted I'm like, "Oh, that's me," and then I heard whoever the examples were, like, "Oh, no, no, I don't wanna be like them. That's not me."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, I had to reject it after she said it's kind of an interesting thing to say which famous people are like that, as if I
right.
know any of them
Oh yeah,
personally,
yeah.
like, I don't actually know them,
Well, it opens the
so what are
door,
they
right?
like?
Now I'm just like them. So now we'll be friends.
You and Oprah?
I don't know.
Are
Is she
you is
one of them?
Oprah one?
I don't know.
I
Where's
can't
that
remember who
list?
the example was. If only we had. If someone does anyone out there have the hardcover or like the hard copy book? Maybe you could look up the
Yeah, they could
examples.
tell us. Yeah, if you're wondering
Yeah,
what we're talking about, so first of all, we're discussing Rethink Innovation by Carla Johnson, and she has a resource on her website that is the Innovation Archetype Assessment. So there's a URL in the bottom left of your screen right now, carlajohnson.co, so co, not com, .co/innovation archetype. Go to that and you'll
interesting.
get a 5-question assessment that will tell you which one of these 6 innovation archetypes that you are. Maybe we should just walk through the whole thing together.
Oh, you know what? I'm kind of interested to see how we get along, you and I, according to Carla.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it?
because it
Oh,
says
I lost my place.
like if a provocateur and a culture shaper are in harmony, the provocateur's nature of pushing the status quo meshes perfectly with the culture shaper's ability to weave a narrative of why the change matters and what the destination will look like.
Yeah. I can totally see that because that's one thing that I've been passionate about and working on for years now is the storytelling, the
Yeah,
messaging aspect of it. So,
absolutely. And apparently, we're both idealists.
yeah, that sounds about right.
Looking on the negative side, culture shapers find there comes a day when they have to draw the line with all the new ideas provocateurs keep throwing their way.
Mm, well,
Yeah,
you got to take action at some point, I guess.
I guess finally drawing the line. But yeah, and then apparently you're very methodical and meticulous, and then I just a more fast paced boundary pushing. So I don't, that all I think that all feels right.
Yeah,
So
I think I
Scott
could
says
own
he's
that.
a culture shaper.
Yeah.
See,
Well,
now you know
what does
Scott.
it say? Yeah, there's a 25% of all innovators think like you, culture shaper.
Hmm,
That says right there.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
that
seems
I think I there are several things that I really appreciate about this book. One is, I think this is really cool, the innovation archetypes. Um, this is I love books like this. I love reading about or listening to stories about innovation. Where did good ideas come from? I think is one of the best books that I've read or listened to in the past, say,
hmm.
2 years. I forget exactly when I listened to it.
Did we read that for book club? No.
We did not. We did not.
Okay, good, because I
No,
don't remember that book.
no. Yeah, it would be there are some definitely some crossover examples and stories in the books. Where did good ideas come from is I think a heftier volume than this. But what's one of the things that's in Rethink Innovation that I don't believe I've seen anywhere else is the framework. So Carla has done this research and developed this framework for innovation,
Mm,
which
yeah.
in my mind, I wonder, if an architect or some creative goes, "Oh, what do you mean a framework for creativity or a framework for innovation?" It's not that restrictive, right? It's basically creating buckets of exercises or buckets of effort, and then looking at how those, at least the way I think about it, and looking for the ways that those interact together. And so, to me, walking through the five, what would you call it, the 5 steps of the framework, to me that seems like it would put enough constraints on that it's actually a little bit freeing. It doesn't
Mm,
have you going completely
that's
hog
true.
wild.
That's true.
Um,
So what? Maybe we could review the five
I gotta
steps
look
or
at. Yep.
phases. What's it called?
Yeah. It's five. It's the 5-step, I think, 5-step framework. And if I could find my notes, I would tell you what those 5 steps
Oh yeah,
are.
sorry. Is it in Blinkist?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Mm.
So, the first one, and she walked. If you go back to yesterday's conversation, if you go to like the last 15 minutes or so of our conversation, maybe 20 minutes, she walks through the 5 steps. Carla Johnson walks through the 5 steps. So the first one is observing and collecting dots. You remember what that was about?
I do
We
remember,
go
yeah.
into a
Well,
coffee
I just
shop.
this is
Yep.
for, maybe people who haven't read the book.
Yeah. Yeah. So step one, observe and collect dots. And in one example she uses is going to a coffee shop, sitting there for 15 minutes or something, and writing down every single thing you could observe in like, you know, detail, graphic detail. Poopy
Yeah.
diaper.
Yeah, I can't
It's,
get that out of my head.
there's yeah,
And I
there
kept
was
thinking, did someone put a poopy diaper just in the trash of the coffee shop?
I would imagine,
Ugh.
but there was some visceral there, but that's the point, right? You're sitting there and you're observing all the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes, the whatever, um, and documenting all those so that they can be used later, so that you can bring those back and use them later. So that's the first step of the framework. The second is distill, poking for patterns. So in that step, if I'm not mistaken, I think you can look at your observations and you can say, okay, how does this apply to X? And one, I think the example she used was, um, how are we creating a negative experience for people, maybe unknowingly, something in that realm.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where she started looking at all the observations and saying, "Oh, well, there were granules of sugar on the table, or the guy chewing his fingernails, or the poopy diaper, of course."
What are you gonna do with either the poopy diaper or the guy chewing his fingernails?
Well,
Y
I think what happens is if that's your framework, it's like, okay, how are we creating, maybe unknowingly, how are we creating a negative experience? Well, there's this guy chewing his nails, and there's the table that wasn't clean essentially, and there's a you know a party foul, whatever it is,
Uh-huh.
and then you've got to go to the next step that says relate and transplanting. So, okay, we these are the things we've observed. These are the dots that we've connected. This is how we've categorized those. What do we do with that? And
Okay.
I think maybe this is an exercise that we went through in our morning mindset conversation the other day. In that particular case, if it's the sugar and the smell and that, how do we flip that around? How do we turn a negative into a positive? Well, we need to make sure that we police the trash more often to make sure that there's not something really foul, or I don't know what you do about the guy chewing his
I
fingernails.
know,
That one's the one that disturbs me the most.
I know. Maybe that's what we should think about for 7 minutes every day for a week.
Maybe so, maybe so. Yeah, that I thought that was a really good exercise that she brought up at the
Mhm.
end of the conversation yesterday. We talked about that on our morning mindset conversation this morning as well. What if you spent 7 minutes for 7 days, every day, 7 minutes, focused on a problem or a question? Put all the distractions away, get out a notebook and a pencil, or whatever, however you do that. And for 7 minutes, you sat and brainstormed or thought about, you did the deep work on that one question or that one problem. Do it for 7 minutes, come back, do it again tomorrow for 7 minutes. I like that a lot because it's this idea of creating a practice.
Mm. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of when, that advice people give when to cut down on worrying, that you just take a certain amount of time every day and think about that thing for 7 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, and then
Mm,
don't worry about it the rest of the day. Just only worry about it that time.
does that work?
No,
Are you-
it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me.
that would be exactly what I would wonder about. Now, again, in our morning mindset conversation, we talk about mindfulness a lot, and that's really
Mm,
at the heart of that, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to put all these other things away. I'm going to be present.
yeah.
But yeah, it seems to me that, okay, I could maybe I would be mentally exhausted at that point. Maybe I would get to the point after 7 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever of contemplating that one thing. Maybe it would drive me to the point of exhaustion and I wouldn't be able to. Maybe that, I don't know if
Mm.
that's the point or not, but
Well, honestly, I haven't really
maybe.
tried it. I mean, I say I'm gonna try it, but then I can't not think about what I'm worried about the whole rest of the day.
Yeah.
So,
I
but
think all of
anyway,
these things fall into the category of simple but not easy.
yeah. What would be a problem though that you would have to think about for 7 minutes a day to get an answer to?
I I don't know. I don't. What example did she gave an example yesterday? Didn't she, or did she not?
I don't honestly, I don't know what's happening in my memory, but maybe when you mention it, I'll remember, but I don't remember, right
um,
now. But
yeah, I
I
don't.
interrupted you because you only gave me 3 of the 5-step
Okay,
framework.
all right. So we did observe collecting dots. That was the
Mhm.
first step in the framework.
Yeah.
Distill poking. Let's see. Distill poking for patterns was the second one.
It's interesting
Relate,
poking for
which is
patterns.
yeah, yeah, looking. I don't know why poking, but yeah, looking for patterns. Maybe I typed it wrong. I think it's poking.
I like that idea of poking for patterns.
Yeah. Yeah. Relate and transplanting, which was the third one. And then the next one is where you start generating the ideas. It's called generate, becoming an idea factory. So now you've sort of taken your observations, you've looked for patterns, you're looking for ways to sort of apply those patterns in different contexts. And now it's time to really start, I guess, brainstorming, really start generating those ideas.
That's only
So that was
4.
the fourth one. Yep. And the
Yeah.
final one is pitching the idea,
Oh, pitching the
creating an
idea.
idea journey. Yeah, which is one of my favorites because if you
Well,
can't explain it, what have you
yeah,
got?
that is an important step there, being able to pitch it.
It is.
Well, I have a okay, there's one part in the book when she's talking about well, I guess I have to back up a second too. The idea of even writing a book like this, and we talked about it yesterday a little bit about how there are certain professions that don't need to learn how to do it because that's what we do. I would
Yeah,
imagine that would be us because we're problem solvers. As like that's our job, pretty much. So it's interesting to see what the different maybe the different steps are that we don't think about. We don't sit down and think about that because that's what we do.
yeah. I think that might be one of the most important aspects of the book because there's, like you said, there's obviously lots and lots of creativity in this profession. There are a lot of people, architects and not, that look at architects as being sort of the ultimate problem solvers.
Well,
And I
we
think
might
there's
call
truth.
ourselves that. I don't know if other
Yeah,
people
we
call us
might,
that.
maybe. Um, but I think there's some truth to both of those things. But I think to me the key is, can you be on demand? Can you, here's a problem that needs to be solved. Okay, I have a system. Or do you? I know there are a lot of us, and I feel this sometimes as well. Is I can't get it started. I can't, for some reason, the creative juices aren't flowing. Um, I'm looking for some sort of inspiration to get this thing started. And I think what she's talking about is, she's talking about being prolifically innovative. So it's this idea of, hey, we have a system to kickstart this, to start the process, to be able to do this when and where we need to be able to do it. And I think that's one of
Hmm,
the beauties of the book.
yeah. I think I said this before we went on the air yesterday, but it does also remind me that not everybody works like this automatically. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the big question, right? How is it possible? Is it possible for somebody to plug into this system? And and
I don't think so.
Carla makes it pretty clear that we're not talking about, when we're talking about innovation, we're not necessarily talking about, creating the digital camera, going from film to digital, like these huge innovations.
Right.
If you read if you read Where Did Good Ideas Come From, you'll learn that there's almost never huge innovations. These things that we see as huge innovations are often just one little iteration beyond whatever came before, but we just never knew. In the general public, we never knew about the previous thing. It's just all of a sudden here's this great idea. No, it's been iterated over time.
Mm.
So I think that's pretty interesting. But um, Chad says there's medication for that now. There, you know, you don't even have to say now. I think that medication's been around in different forms for a while.
Medication for what?
Um, I think jump starting the creativity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Not
Ma-
okay, I get it. I get it.
yeah, yeah.
Well, she talks about people. Okay, this is my problem when I listen to a book at 1.8 times speed, honestly.
Yeah,
It
it's
doesn't always
fast.
work well for me, but I think there was a part in there where she was talking about how, 5-year-olds, a certain percentage, like a huge 96% are deemed like test to be geniuses or something like that.
Yep, yep.
Creative
Mhm.
geniuses. And then it gets less and less as we get older and more afraid of putting our ideas out there and getting shot down or something, I guess. So that
Yeah.
kind of reminded me of that guy, Ken. What was his name? Ken. He had glasses. He had a TED talk about school, squashing creativity, and
Um, yeah.
you
Okay.
know what I mean? I can't remember his name.
Yes. Yep.
I think he died recently.
Mm.
I'm so full of facts right now, but anyway, but it did remind me of just how we're supposed to conform as a society to make society go more smoothly,
Yep.
and that we're kind of trained to not um, put out new ideas because it just rocks the boat in a way.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Also, when I have a question about things like, we talk about M&Ms, right?
A lot.
And I feel like we talked to somebody, and I was talking about why do you have to keep innovating, basically, coming up with new Triscuits or new Oreos or new
Oh, yeah, yeah,
M&Ms.
yeah. We did talk about that.
We
Yep.
talked to somebody about that,
Hmm.
and I wish I could remember what that person said. But so do we have to do that? I mean, do businesses have to do that? Do they have to keep coming up with new kinds of M&Ms?
Well, that's a great question. I think it probably um, gets to Carla's definition of what innovation is. And I won't remember it exactly off the top of my head, but there are three components to it. One is I think it's something new. Two, it's um, well, the third one is it drives the business bottom line, right? And then the
Mhm.
third one is what was the third one? Not that it's novel, I don't think, but it has to have all three of those components. And when we she talks about it, she says, well, you may have this great new idea, but it doesn't drive the bottom line of the business,
Mhm.
or maybe it's the sustainable or something like that. But I think when you look at something like M&Ms, do you need innovation? Well,
I'm
I don't
Chad.
know. I mean,
Chad says
I
you have to get a new thing going every 6 months to keep the public interested.
yeah, I think there's definitely an aspect of capitalism that drives that. Yeah.
Mm,
Now, that's on the product side, obviously. The M&M, the candy as a product. On the architecture side, and I thought this was really fascinating yesterday in our conversation because she said that she thinks that architects are what architects create is incredibly innovative, and so but architects don't get the credit for being
yeah, that was
innovative.
interesting.
Yeah, and so I'm glad she said that so that we could dig into it a little bit deeper. And I think what I gathered from her answer is that she thinks it's not being demonstrated, right? It's all happening in the office behind the curtain. You've hired an architect, maybe nobody even knows that an architect was hired, and all of a
Mm,
sudden, poof, here's this building,
yeah,
right? And so nobody actually witnesses or experiences the innovation. I think that's a really important lesson for everybody in this community.
Mm,
Is it necessary when it comes to the discussion of the value of an architect? Is it necessary for your clients or the public, whoever it is that needs to witness the value of an architect, or deem the value of an architect? Is it necessary for them to experience the innovation? Because at that point, if the answer is yes, then at that point we're getting solidly into a conversation about client experience.
yeah. I mean, how do we go about showing them?
I don't know. I mean, I think I mean I could come up with a number of
200?
ideas.
200 though?
Maybe I don't know about 200. Definitely not by in the next 15 minutes. But I think you could do it. You could certainly do it, in some sort of charrette format.
Mhm.
You could, but that would be, maybe that's the project team and the client. If it's broad, if we need to get broader than that, then do we document that so that, whether it's Instagram or YouTube or whatever it is, so that people
Mm.
can witness what went on, right? That suddenly becomes part of your marketing mix or something like that. I think there's I think there's a number of different approaches to that, but I just thought that was a fascinating, and that's right. If you are going to watch the replay, that's in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the conversation yesterday, I think.
I was kinda surprised to hear that because I just assume that people know that the architects are the ones who came up with whatever is going on. So,
I, yeah, I
maybe
think we
that's not
assume too
right.
much.
I
Yeah,
think we do.
yeah,
I think we do. Maybe it just makes us feel better to think that people notice that the
yeah, yeah.
innovation
I
came from
suppose.
somewhere.
I suppose. Oh, surely they'll know. So build it and they will come.
Right.
Build it and they will give the engineer the credit
For
for the
all of the
structure.
nice spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, or the contractor. When she said that yesterday, I know we're sort of off the topic of the book all of a sudden, but when she said that yesterday, right? It's like the architect designs this thing in the studio, and
Mhm.
suddenly, poof, there's a building. And but people will give engineers the credit because the thing stands up.
Mm.
People will give contractors the credit because they see the contractor building the building, or build, whatever the structure is. And to me, that was a real aha moment.
Mm.
No wonder people will look at the contractor and say, "Oh, I need to talk to a contractor," because they can witness the contractor making that magic,
Yeah.
even though the contractor's just working off of your recipe, but the contractor's getting credit for it because for 9 months or a year or whatever the scale of the project is, they're watching that contractor every day make that magic.
Right. Yeah. The magic that we ask them to make,
Yeah,
but they don't
yeah,
necessarily recognize that.
yeah.
Um, hmm.
Now you're going
Well,
to bring it back to the book, aren't you?
yeah, I am. So
Probably ought to.
if we were gonna do this, the five-step framework, I mean, maybe we could try to illustrate to our clients, maybe on our website or something like that, taking these 5 steps and filling them in with our own process, what we actually do, and so
Mhm.
letting people know that there is a lot. I mean, the thing is, I'm sure I'm not alone in, when I'm thinking about a project or trying to figure out the puzzle. I mean, maybe it is that I do 7 minutes a day, but without it being a practice, just think about it while I'm walking somewhere, while I'm in the
Right, right.
shower, when I'm
Yep,
gardening or something.
yep.
Um, so it's hard to let people in on that process, really.
Mhm.
Um, I used to have my office open to the public, not,
Yeah.
in my house, but in a, storefront, and with the idea being that they'd maybe understand more how architects work, but it didn't work out that way. I just ended up getting interrupted all the time.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't like I was in the window, thinking with, like, little thought bubbles over my head, which would be kinda
That would have
cool
been cool,
to
though.
see.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, I don't really see how that could happen. I guess you know what? You could do something like that by sitting in a storefront, and then you type out your thoughts. So the whole time you're just typing this whatever you're thinking, and it's behind you on a screen so people can
It
see what you're
becomes
thinking.
becomes performance art somehow.
Yeah, like, I wonder where that
Yeah.
lady got those shoes. So, it'd be everything you're thinking or maybe you just automatically it just
As she walks
attaches that
by
would be
the, yeah.
dangerous. Yeah,
Oh
that would
yeah,
be dangerous.
yeah, it would be very dangerous.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, and,
Well,
this kind of is related to the whole idea of how people think or how people visualize things in their minds. I don't know, it's gotten me thinking about aphantasia again, but as you know, I'm kind of obsessed with that. Uh,
yeah, yeah. The One of the things that came to my mind when you started that thought was, um,
my rambling thought.
no, no, there were a lot of good points in there, but I latched onto one at the very beginning where you're talking about the 5-step framework.
Mm,
I'm pretty sure she mentions IDEO, the design thinking
mhm,
uh, firm company in the book. I think she may have even mentioned it while we were talking yesterday. But if you go if you don't know who IDEO is, they call themselves a design thinking organization or something like that. People hire them to solve problems, and they're very well known for it. They're arguably arguably the people that coined the term design thinking. I
mm,
do think there's some argument about that because there's a couple different schools of thought there, but people hire them to solve complex problems. Sometimes it's even built environment problems, but they're not architects. There are architects that work there, but they're not architects. If you ever go and they get paid extremely well to be problem solvers. I think this is a
oh,
good lesson for architects as well. If
I
you go to
went
their
there.
website,
Mhm,
they have lots and lots and lots of resources. Some of them would be like this 5-step framework for prolific innovation, but they have all kinds of resources that lay out a system for doing this, that, or the other, a system for solving this kind of problem, et cetera. And you can download those things. You can look at it, you can read it, you can see how they do this. If they come and do a workshop with you, this is how they're going to do it. I've always advocated for this on your website is, can you define your process in 3 steps or 5 steps or something like that? So if I were going to design a rethink innovation website, one thing I would want to see is, here are the 5 steps of the framework,
mhm,
so that someone could look at this and understand what this process is about, what it involves, et cetera. And I don't care if someone says, "Oh, well, if I'm going to write these 5 things down, I'm going to try that." Fine, go try it. If you're successful, fantastic. You weren't my ideal client anyway, but in all likelihood, you're not going to be successful, and you're going to come back and say, "Hey, can you use this framework with me?"
mhm.
And that might be one small way of harnessing this as an architect, I suppose.
Well, I'm looking at IDEO's website right now, and they do have a bunch of jobs available.
There you go, everybody. It's time to
So,
quit architecture. No, no, that wasn't the point.
no, but I mean,
Point taken. Point taken.
but, I'm just saying, because I don't know about you, but probably you too. I've always wondered what it'd be like to work in a think tank. Like, what is a think tank? I mean, you
Yeah,
just hear about
yeah,
these think tanks, but wouldn't that be fun if
yeah,
that were your job is just to think of stuff?
yeah.
And then I think my job is just to think of stuff, but
Right. Yeah,
right. So I should be happy. So then I go back to work after I realize that. But unfortunately, I don't get to think of new things all day. I have a lot of other things I
right.
have to do, like measure,
Well,
you know.
and Carla talks about that in the book. It's, there's a difference between there's a big difference between having a group of people in the organization who are the innovators, right? These are the assigned innovators. And then having an innovation culture where everybody's role somehow either involves, like actively involves, or they are they have the permission or whatever to be innovative, to think differently. and one, like, these are the innovators, that creates separation that allows people to say, oh, it's not my job to figure that out, somebody else is going to
Yeah.
figure that out, and I'm just going to keep doing this the same old inefficient way,
Mm.
versus having the permission or even the charge to say, okay, how can I do this better? And I again, I go back to that. I think that idea of culture, and many of you will say, well, there's only one of me. You do have a culture, actually, but I think that's when how many firms, how many firms have I worked for in the past where I felt like, this is my little slice, and I have neither knowledge nor responsibility nor, whatever, to be the
Mm.
innovator, because that's somebody else's role. And I probably not wouldn't have called it the innovator, but it becomes so siloed
Yeah.
that we're losing that synergy and that energy that can lead to the innovation.
Mm. So, have you I have personally been involved with situations where people who are coming up with new ways of doing things are just irritating, where people aren't looking for people to to change things or do it better or use less tape or whatever examples she used.
Hmm.
And especially
Yeah,
I find, especially if there's a strong founder energy, like there's someone who started the thing and they're not looking for a new way of doing it.
yeah,
They want to do it their way, pretty much.
yep, yeah. No,
So,
I think that goes back
sometimes
to that idea of culture, and I I think you're exactly right in that there maybe a majority of organizations are not interested in innovation.
mhm,
This is the
yeah,
way we've always done it, or like you said, you have the founder that's, one firm, the first firm that I worked for out of school had someone in the office whose title was uh, oh shoot, it just went out of my head, but he was the head designer, basically, is what he was,
mm,
of a firm of 500 people or something like that. There's one guy that had the title head designer, lead designer, whatever it was.
mhm,
And so anything of importance, put that in quotes, would go through him.
mhm,
If it's a food distribution plan or something like that, he's not touching it. But if it's a museum or if it's something, then it's going through him. And you
right,
can imagine what kind of culture that creates. You've got young people coming out of school, coming out of architecture school, that think they're going to become designers, et cetera. Well, no, it's
yeah,
Andy.
yep,
He's
turns
the head
out,
designer. You don't get to design anything.
yeah, yep, yep, I think that's well, obviously, that's an issue, right? And we go to these
Yeah.
places, and it turns out we're not designing anything because the
Right.
designers are designing stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You get to
Could
lay out
though,
your
we could.
sheet.
Yeah. Um, anyway, it was an interesting book. It was interesting to think about how it all breaks down and, to hear how a lot of these innovative, things came up like, Shazam? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that exists as that anymore because they've been bought, but I used to love
Oh,
Shazam.
I did too.
Yep.
Um, and they had a special one for folk music. I can't remember what that
Oh, I
one's
didn't know that.
called.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, Shazam didn't really know all of the traditional folk tunes,
Mm. Mm.
understandably. But, because there are a lot of them. What was I
Yeah.
gonna say? Oh, yeah, so I think that was, she was talking okay, you're gonna have to help me out here. It was at the end of the book,
Yeah.
and she was talking about, like, how could someone else take your idea? And
Oh.
what was the phrase she used, though?
Mm.
Like, as a way of thinking about a better idea than what you already have is, like, how could somebody else,
Oh.
put you out of business, I think. Is that what
Yeah.
it was?
I don't remember what the term was, but yeah, I've run across this a lot. And I think you see this a lot in in the architecture profession. It's like, oh, we don't want to share this. We don't want to share
Mm,
our process because somebody
right,
else will steal it.
right.
and that's, going back to mindsets, that's a total fixed mindset.
That's a
Um,
fear-based mindset
yeah,
there.
it's fear-based. It's a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Um, if you have developed some sort of fantastic process, you've been working on that for what, a year, couple of years,
Mhm.
some fairly significant amount of time. And if somebody sees that in a video or in a blog post or witnesses it in a charrette or something like that, the day that they see, if you've been developing this process over the course of 3 years, the day that they see that, they're 3 years behind.
Yeah. But people feel like
Yeah.
they're not, they're just okay, this is another, we interviewed someone, it was a man, who
Okay.
I think I heard him say this on Entree Architect, the podcast, about people wanting to rush through it was the, venture capitalist. What is his name?
Oh, KP Redding.
Yeah, 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 and he was
Yeah.
saying that if your idea is so easy to copy, if so you're so
Oh,
worried
right,
about people
right.
hearing it, then I'm not interested in funding it or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It's not a
Well,
very good
I think,
idea.
yeah, yeah, that's a good point too, right? If it's that simple, right? If I could hear you talking about it and then tomorrow I could be doing it,
Mm, yeah.
what's
Right.
really there?
Right, exactly. Anyway, that reminded me of that. Obviously very vaguely since I barely remember,
Yeah.
but are you gonna, tell us what the next book is?
No, I'm not, because you know why? I
You don't know.
forgot. I don't know. I
Mm,
forgot. Um,
alright.
so we'll get back to you on that. Um, part of the reason is because unless you've missed the rest of the week, one of the things that's happening is next Thursday, a week from yesterday, so it'll be April 6th. Next Thursday will be the 3-year anniversary of the launch of what became Context and Clarity. On day one, it was not called Context and Clarity. But Thursday will be 3 years of Context and Clarity, and we're actually going to sunset the Context and Clarity conversation
What
next
does
Thursday.
sunset mean, Jeff?
We're gonna stop.
Okay.
It's gonna end. Um,
Sunset sounds nicer.
it does. The Context and Clarity conversations, as we know it, will end next. Well, I guess technically next Wednesday, because Thursday will be Context and Clarity Live. However,
Mm.
next Friday, April 7th, we will have a celebration. So if you've been around, if Context and Clarity has meant something to you, if whatever, if you'd like to celebrate 3 years of Context and Clarity with us, then join us next Friday. We'll have an open Zoom room the way that we do when we have parties and celebrations, and we'll just celebrate 3 years of Context and Clarity next Friday.
Mm.
Um, Also, along with these changes, we're going to reschedule Context and Clarity Live. Context and Clarity Live will continue on. We'll take a little bit of a break, but we'll reschedule it. I forget when we said. I think we said Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, but I've got to verify that.
Mm.
So we will come back with Context and Clarity Live, different day, time, etc. But so after next Friday, there'll be a little bit of a break in Context and Clarity. So I've got a little bit of time to tell you what the next book is for the book club. So I just bought myself some time
I see.
in that explanation, I think, hopefully.
Okay.
Um,
Well, we'll wait.
However, okay, thank you for waiting. Um, Next week for Context and Clarity Live, I hope that you will all help promote this because we've not seen this done. Um,
Speaking of innovative.
Yeah, speaking of innovative, not even sure how well this is going to work, but I've been testing it. I've been testing it. Next week for Context and Clarity Live, our special guest will be Chat GPT. We are going to attempt to have a 1 hour conversation with Chat GPT about AI and architecture. So,
Wow.
in my mind, the format is we get the conversation started with Chat GPT, and
Mhm.
then you're asking your questions and comments just like you do all the time, and
Mhm.
we take some of those and we drop it into Chat GPT and see how Chat GPT responds. and that's how we will have a conversation with the AI
Mm.
chatbot. So,
So do I get to play Chat GPT?
um, I
How's
don't
that
know.
gonna work?
Well, we
How
can
are
we can yeah, yes and no, because Chat
mm,
GPT can't talk, certainly.
yes, yes,
But we can share the screen, and so we can
right.
have Chat GPT up on the screen. But yeah, it's going to take both of us to sort of
Mm.
manage the whole thing.
Well, I guess we'll figure that out,
We
off
will. We'll have to.
offline, as they say.
Yep.
Just
We'll
stay
have
tuned for
to.
whatever happens there.
Yep. We'll have to. We'll do some testing over the next week or so. So, um, we will have Context and Clarity Classroom on Monday. I will get those worksheets ready. They will be related to AI and architecture, AI tools, etc. So join us Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern over in the network for that conversation. Like I said, I'll post those. It might be tomorrow morning before I have them posted, but I'll have those worksheets posted both in the network and in the Facebook group, and then you can see what the week is going to be about, and you can also um, part of the context and clarity classroom is looking at the week and how we can actually apply this to your practice. So it takes the questions of the week, but then applies it directly to your work. So look for that to come out probably tomorrow morning, and to be in the classroom to happen Monday at 3. I will be live in the network. It's all getting kind of confusing. I'll be live in the network Monday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern for Java with Jeff, our morning mindset conversation. And then we'll be back at 4 p.m. Eastern for our context and clarity conversation on Monday.
Gotta get up earlier for your mindset conversations.
You got to be up real early.
Gotta get up early. Gotta get up early in the morning for that. 8:30
Yeah,
Eastern.
it is. It is. And it always amazes me the number of people that do get up that early. Appreciate that, but
Yeah,
especially West Coasters, it's like
yeah,
5:30 in the morning for them. So
yeah.
kudos, kudos to them. So,
Yep.
all right. Well, thanks for this conversation today, Catherine.
Another book down.
Another book down.
We
We'll
head
pick a
into
new one
second
for
quarter.
next month. Yep. Yeah. A full quarter of books. And thanks to everybody out there for your questions and comments here in the conversation today. As always, please be well, stay safe, keep those around you safe and well. Find a little bit of time to breathe and relax. Find some way to rejuvenate. I just counted and I forgot how many it was.
Too many to
This
count.
is 726th context and clarity conversation today. So thank you for all
Wow.
726 of them.
726. I don't know. Somehow that just occurred to me. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a
It is a
lot.
lot. It's 3/4 of 1,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So thanks for going along the journey with us, and we'll keep it going through next week, and then we'll see how we pivot from there. All right. Until then, have a great weekend wherever you are, and we'll see you Monday. Thanks, everybody.